It's Thursday the 10th of May. Here are the headlines. Fears over pedestrian safety in Gunville after young girl knocked down. Locals call for action. Police arrest trio over fraud and door-to-door selling in Sandown. Ladder death of vintner father was accident, says coroner. And just a handful of tickets left as Bestival is close to selling out. Good evening, welcome to the programme. This is Solent Tonight. In a week when Isle of Wight Council is highlighting its efforts to reduce the number of road deaths and injuries on the island, people in Gunville are expressing fears about pedestrian safety after a 12-year-old girl suffered serious injuries in a collision on the main local road there this week. There's concern that traffic calming measures introduced as a result of a similar crash 7 years ago are only making things worse, as Duncan Smith reports.
Tuesday afternoon in Gunville, traffic diverted and delayed by an accident involving a 12-year-old girl. Police say she'd run out from behind a moving van into the path of a Land Rover. The girl taken to hospital with a suspected broken leg, evoking bad memories for local residents. A parent's nightmare becomes reality in front of their eyes. This was the moment when a 4-year-old boy was hit by a car on the main road outside Gunville Stores. His father was just metres away. The child, Harry Fennell, survived, but the aftermath of this collision has made a lasting impact on the community.
It was this CCTV camera that captured the collision involving 4-year-old Harry Fennell. The safety campaign that followed led to the creation of this pinch point. But after this week's collision on Gunville Road, some local residents are speaking out, saying this traffic calming measure has been more of a hazard than a help.
They think they can speed through before the next car comes through. And I've even got caught on that bit myself trying to cross the road. Traffic lights would have been better, I think, because then you can stop and go across at your own speed.
I believe the traffic coming down this road is coming down too fast. I think the chicane behind us really ought to go because it causes people to try and race through it. What would be ideal is a pelican crossing, not sited there, but perhaps a little bit further down, because the road would be naturally slowed with a pelican crossing when people are actually using it, and people will be able to cross safely. So I think that's the best solution. The chicane's an absolute nightmare. I think I haven't met anybody yet who's got a good thing to say about it. It was a mistake, it ought to go.
But some are sceptical about whether a pedestrian crossing is the right solution, including the father of the boy whose accident prompted the pinch point.
The accident involving my son, really at the end of the day, was down to me. I came out of the shop and I didn't have hold of his hand, and he walked into the road. Now, if I'd had hold of him, he wouldn't have been in the road, there wouldn't have been the accident. So, you know, in my view, you know, it's just my neglect, really. It doesn't matter what sort of crossing you've got. In the real world, accidents are still going to happen. And I've learnt that lesson. And really, yeah, educating the kids to be aware of the road is probably far more important than anything.
Traffic police on the island say their statistics show there have been 2 minor injuries recorded on Gunville Road since 2005 and 6 collisions that caused damage to vehicles. The local councillor for Carisbrooke West believes more work is needed to properly assess the risk of a crash.
It is the speed of the traffic that is causing the problems. I don't think it's the pinch points. I think that the speed of the traffic is terrific. And we really do need to look greater into that as to how we can alleviate any more problems.
Isle of Wight Council says the last traffic study was carried out in August 2005 and would be happy to undertake a further survey. In the meantime, some locals remain worried that this pinch point has too much potential to cause a serious accident. As emergency services and the council start to work closer together in a new road safety forum, it's questionable whether any engineering to this road could ever compensate for a lack of education among pedestrians failing to pay attention to the dangers of crossing a busy road. Duncan Smith for Solent Tonight in Gunville.
Police have arrested 3 men on suspicion of fraud by false representation in connection with elderly homeowners being targeted through cold calling and overpriced building work. The trio are being questioned by detectives and representatives from the Isle of Wight Trading Standards team. It follows an incident in the Lake Green Road area in Sandown yesterday. A 53-year-old and 32-year-old man from Solihull and a 26-year-old man from Lancashire were taken into custody following allegations that customers were being overcharged and door-to-door legislation had not been followed. Police and trading standards are appealing for witnesses to come forward. Homeowners are also being reminded that by police not to make verbal agreements with traders or pay large deposits before work is complete. Tony Blair has announced today that he'll step down as leader of the country on June the 27th. His resignation will spark a leadership contest, although Chancellor Gordon Brown is widely expected to take over the role. After 10 years in power, Mr Blair said it had been an honour to lead the greatest nation on earth. Reflecting on Mr Blair's decade at the top, local Labour chairman Mark Chiverton gave his views on Blair.
I think it's time for a change in terms of leadership. That will take place in the near future, but I think we need to look at the legacy over 10 years. That was the question. I think there have been some disappointments. I think it's well known that I and a number of other local people opposed the war in Iraq. I still take the view that that was a mistake, and I think to some extent that is colouring the view of Tony Blair in terms of huge sections of the population. I mean, having said that, we do need to look at the positive side, and I think Alan, in fairness, made some positive points. I think that the economy has been strong consistently over the period. We've had higher levels of employment than we'd had for many years previously. Inflation has been consistently low and growth levels have been very good. I think, yes, there are certain organisational issues within the health service that people experience. Having said that, in terms of investment in health and education, the number of people employed as nurses, doctors, teachers is higher than it's ever been, and certainly vastly higher than the situation that Labour inherited from the Conservatives, who consistently underinvested in those services over many years.
Accidental death was the verdict of the island's coroner today following the death of a father of two who fell from a ladder whilst working last October. 66-year-old Ventnor man John Lake had been fixing a broken side window following a fire at the old bank building on Wootton High Street on the 9th of October last year. Mr Lake suffered head injuries in the fall and was discovered in the alleyway next to the building early afternoon. Earlier today, a verdict of accidental death was recorded at the Isle of Wight Coroner's Court in Newport. It's Emmy Awareness Week, and members of the Isle of Wight branch of the charity Hampshire Friends with Emmy have been holding an awareness event in Newport today. The debilitating illness affects thousands of people across the country, and this year the organisation is aiming to highlight men that suffer from the illness, as historically men have had slower diagnosis times than women.
A third of the population of 240,000 people who suffer with ME throughout the country, a third of those are men. And the problem is the fact that they don't seem to get the early diagnosis. I think women get diagnosed a bit quicker, but we're trying to understand how this affects men, their masculinity and their identity, and also how it affects the carers as well, the women who sort of have to take on the role of running the home and doing the jobs and everything else, which obviously the man would already do. So that's what we're trying to do here, plus raise the profile of ME CFS. Symptoms can be flu-like symptoms, severe migraine, severe fatigue, and I mean severe fatigue, like not having slept for a period of say 3 weeks. So it's not just like sort of a couple of days no sleep, it is severe and it's constant, unfortunately. Like I said, the migraines and the pain, muscle pain, the inability to walk. A lot of people rely on aids, wheelchairs, and most people who don't are still in severe pain most of the time. All in all, there's about 90 symptoms of ME CFS.
A new sailing series has announced that Cowes will be one of the venues in its European series for fast racing catamarans, the Extreme 40s. The iShares Cup is being organised by OC Events, a company owned by Cowes-based sailor and world record holder Dame Ellen MacArthur. The series will visit 4 regattas and also 3 endurance races, including the JP Morgan Round the Island race in June. Dame Ellen launched the series this week in London on the River Thames. An island charity is appealing for help in match funding cash pledged by a mystery millionaire. The Isle of Wight Society for the Blind is hoping to raise £5,000 by Midsummer's Day to help visually impaired islanders. A mystery benefactor from overseas has said if the society reaches their goal, he'll double it. The anonymous man is visually impaired himself and has helped the charity in the past. The Carisbrook-based organisation is appealing for people to become friends of the society with a £5 donation, which hopefully they'll be able to double.
That money, what we're hoping to do is that we want to reinstate our kitchen into a proper training kitchen, so it'd be a lot of updating in there. and rearrangement, so there'll be some building work to go on, equipment to buy that is going to be special for partially sighted people and blind people to be able to cook properly. It will also improve the facilities for the whole of the centre, so that when people come here they can use the kitchen for their catering needs. We've got that on mind. We've also got that we need to go upmarket away from cassette tapes, because I've just found out this week that they're not going to be producing them any longer, which is a bit of a devastating blow because our newspaper is produced on cassette tapes. So we've got some of the equipment needed to make CDs, but not all of it yet, and it's going to cost quite a bit more.
We're taking a short break now, but still to come in the second half of Solent Tonight. We have all the sport ideas for the weekend in the guide and a look ahead to tonight's panel of Extra Extra.